welcome back to First Chapter Sunday. Today I'm going to be introducing to you the book Moonrise. This is the second book of the second series of warriors. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Stormfur opened his eyes, blinking away sleep, and struggled to remember where he was. Instead of his nest of reeds in the River Clan camp, he was lying curled in dry, crunchy bracken. Above his head was the earth roof of a cave, crisscrossed with tangled roots. He could hear a rhythmic roaring sound faintly in the distance. At first it puzzled him. Then he remembered how close they were to the sun-drowned water, washing endlessly onto the edge of the land. He flinched as a vision burst into his mind of how he and Brambleclaw had struggled in the water for their lives. He spat, still tasting the salty tang of the water in the back of his throat. At home in River Clan, he was used to water. His was the only clan that could swim comfortably in the river that ran through the forest. But not this surging, salty, pushing and pulling water, too strong even for a River Clan cat to swim in safely. Other memories came rushing back. StarClan had sent cats from each of the 4 clans on a long, dangerous journey, to where Midnight had to tell them. They had fought their way across unknown country, through 2-leg nests, facing attacks from dogs and rats, to make the last incredible discovery, that Midnight was a badger. Stormfur felt ice creeping along his limbs as he recalled Midnight's dreadful message. 2-legs were destroying the forest to make a new thunder path. All the clans would have to leave, and it was the task of StarClan's chosen cats to warn them and lead them to a new home. Stormfur sat up and looked around the cave. Faint light filtered through the tunnel that led out onto the cliff top, along with a gentle current of fresh air that carried the scent of salt water. Midnight the badger was nowhere to be seen. Close beside Stormfur, his sister Feathertail was sleeping, her tail curled over her nose. Just beyond her was Tawny Pelt, the fierce Shadow Clan warrior. Stormfur was relieved to see that she was resting quietly, as if the rat bite she had suffered in the 2-leg place was troubling her less. Midnight storm herbs had yielded something to soothe the infection and help her sleep. On the opposite side of the cave, a little way apart, was the Wind Clan apprentice Crowpaw, his dark gray pelt barely visible among the fronds of bracken. Nearest the cave entrance, Tawny Pelt's brother, Brambleclaw, was stretched out beside Squirrelpaw, who slept in a tight ball. Stormfur felt a stab of jealousy at the sight of the 2 ThunderClan cats close together, tried to push it away. He had no right to admire Squirrelpaw and her courage and bright optimism as much as he did when they came from different clans. Brambleclaw would make her a much better mate. Stormfur knew that he ought to rouse companions so that they could begin their long journey back to the forest. Yet, he was strangely reluctant. Let them sleep a little longer, he thought. We'll need all our strength for what lies ahead. Shaking scraps of bracken from his pelt, he picked his way across the sandy floor of the cave and out through the tunnel. A stiff breeze ruffled his fur as he emerged onto the springy grass. He was dry at last, after his near drowning the night before, and sleep had refreshed him. He stood gazing around him. Just ahead was the edge of the cliff, and beyond it lay an endless stretch of shimmering water, reflecting the pale light of dawn. Stormfur opened his jaws to drink in the air and catch the scent of prey. Instead, his senses were flooded by a strong reek of badger. He caught sight of Midnight sitting on the highest point of the cliff, her small bright eyes fixed on the fading stars. In the sky behind her, on the far side of the moorland, a strip of creamy light showed where the sun would rise. Stormfur padded over, dipping his head respectfully before sitting beside her. "Good morning, Grey Warrior." Midnight's voice rumbled in welcome. "Sleep you have enough." "Yes, thanks, Midnight." Stormfur still found it strange to be exchanging friendly greetings with her, when badgers had always been deadly enemies of the warrior clans. Yet Midnight was no ordinary badger. She seemed closer to StarClan than any warrior, except perhaps the medicine cats. She had traveled far and somehow had found the wisdom to foretell the future. Stormford gave her a sidelong glance to see her eyes still fixed on the remaining stars in the dawn sky. "Can you really read signs from StarClan?" he asked curiously, half hoping that her terrible predictions from the night before would vanish in the light of morning. "Much is to be read everywhere," the badger replied. "In stars, in running water, in flash of lights on waves. Whole world speaks if ears are open to listen." "Must be deaf then," Stormfur meowed. "The future seems dark to me." "Not so, Grey Warrior," rasped Midnight. "See?" She pointed with her snout across the sun-drowned water to where a single warrior of StarClan still shone brightly just above the horizon. "StarClan has seen our meeting. Pleased they are, and help they will give in dark days coming." Stormford gazed up at the brilliant point of light and let out a faint sigh. He was no medicine cat, accustomed to sharing tongues with their warrior ancestors. His task was to offer strength and skill in the service of his clan, and now it seemed of all the forest cats. Midnight had made it clear that each and every clan would be destroyed if they could not ignore the ancient boundaries and work together for once. "Midnight, when we go home?" His question was never finished. A yowl interrupted him, and he turned to see Squirrel Paw burst out of the tunnel that led down into the badger's den. She stood in the entrance, her dark ginger fur fluffed up and her ears pricked. "Starving," she announced. "Where's the prey around here?" "Budge up and let the rest of us out." Crowpaw's irritable voice sounded behind her. "Then we might be able to tell you." Squirrel Paw bounded forward a few paces, and the Wind Clan apprentice emerged, followed closely by Feathertail. She stretched with pleasure in the sunlight. Stormford got up and bounded over the tough moorland grass so he could touch noses with his sister. Not been one of StarClan's original chosen cats, but he had insisted on coming on the journey to protect Feathertail. With their mother dead and their father living in a different clan, the two cats were much closer than ordinary siblings. Midnight lumbered after him and nodded greeting to the cats. "Tiny Pelt's much better this morning," Feathertail reported. "She says her shoulder hardly hurts at all." To Midnight, she added, "That burdock root you gave her really helped." "Root is good," the badger rumbled. "Now injured warrior, travel well." As she spoke, Tawny Pelt herself appeared from the tunnel. Stormford was relieved to see that she looked stronger after her long sleep and was scarcely limping at all. Following Tawny Pelt, her brother Brambleclaw pushed his way out of the tunnel and stood blinking in the growing light. "The sun's nearly up," he meowed. "It's time we were on our way." "But we have to eat first," Squirrel Paw wailed. "My belly is growling louder than the monster on the Thunderpath. I could eat a fox, fur and all." Stormford had to agree with her. Hunger clawed at his own belly, and he knew that without food they would not be able to face the long and exhausting journey back to the forest. Yet he shared Brambleclaw's urgency. How would they feel if they delayed too long and then discovered cats had died because of it? A look of exasperation flitted over Brambleclaw's face. His voice was firm as he replied, "We'll pick up some prey as we go. And once we get back to the woods where we made camp, we'll have a proper hunt." "Bossy furball," Squirrel Paw muttered. "Brambleclaw's right," Tawny Pelt meowed. "Who knows what's happening at home? There's no time to waste." A murmur of agreement rose from the other cats. Even Crowpaw, who usually challenged Brambleclaw's decision even more than Squirrelpaw, had nothing to say. With a slight shock, Stormford realized that their long journey and the threat to all their clans had changed them from a group of squabbling rivals into a united force with a single purpose: to save their clanmates and the warrior code that had protected them for so long. The end. This is all of Chapter 1 that I'm going to read to you. I hope you enjoyed this book, and see you next time on Fun Time with Ella and Ethan. Bye!